let's bring in Joe Theismann, who joins us. Good morning, Joe. Thanks for joining us. How are you?
You're welcome, Dan. Good to catch up with you. Is Journey on that list?
Is Journey?
They are.
Yeah, yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah.
Journey's part of that soft rock in the 70s?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, one of my favorite bands.
Let me ask you a couple of things here that have to do with, Washington, D.C. that you know so well. At what point do you think we see Dwayne Haskins here? What has to happen first?
Well, first of all, I think that it depends a little bit on Cole McCoy. I believe he's going to work this week. He's not been put on IR. So if Case Keenum, something happens to him and he can't go, I think the next alternative would be Colt. And then it would be Dwayne. I just can't see where it makes a lot of sense to rush Dwayne out on the football field because people want to see him play. Coaches evaluate, and maybe the evaluation is he's not quite ready yet. I mean, there's and everybody says, well, look what Daniel Jones did in New York, and look at what is happening with him. Two different scenarios. Daniel's played 30 football games in college. Dwayne's only played 13 football games at Ohio State. The speed of this game is entirely different than it is at the college level. And we're struggling, running the football, which you really need from a support standpoint. I think when the Giants went with Daniel, they figured, well, Saquon will be there, and we can lean on him a little bit to transition the young man in. We haven't had the ability to be able to do that, even though Adrian continues to pound and pound and pound. We just haven't got the yards out of it. So I would venture to say it would be the latter part of the year, if at all, maybe the last quarter of the year, if at all.
What about Jay Gruden's future? I think he even said at the start of the year, if we don't make the playoffs, then I'm not going to be the head coach here. Do you think that?
Yeah, I think he said a little tongue in cheek, Dan, but
okay.
I think but it isn't tongue in cheek. I think he realizes that, he has to produce in this year. But once again, we are leading the National Football League on players on IR. 3 games, 11 guys on IR. The last 2 years, it's been before this year, it's been like 46 guys on IR. I mean, there are ones in the National Football League and there are twos. And if you're playing with twos against ones, you're not going to win a lot of football games. Now, I think there's a lot of pressure on Jay. I mean, I thought there was a lot of pressure last week against Chicago, but going to play the New York Giants in New York, where you wouldn't say that they're a juggernaut or even competing for the title in this division, but if they don't show up and play a good football game and win this football game, the heat will go up even higher than it is right now. And it's up pretty high now.
Let me ask you a couple other situations to comment on. The Cleveland Browns, all this hype. Rex Ryan came out and says Baker Mayfield's overrated as hell, and then went on to explain what he was doing wrong here. What do you make of the Cleveland Browns situation here, and in particular, Baker Mayfield?
Well, I think, first of all, Odell Beckham is going to create attention no matter where he is, whether he brings it upon himself, which he loves to do, or because you see kids they run highlights of kids making one-handed catches, and Odell was the first to do it. So if you're the first to do it, everybody sort of points to you. I think they have a football team with Jarvis Landry. They have a football team that's very talented. Their defense doesn't get talked about enough, and Baker is still a young kid. He runs around a lot. He makes plays. He makes some throws that are errant. And we forget that he's very young in this game. How good is he? At times, he's very good. Other times, he's still learning through and working through the process. Freddie Kitchens went from coordinator to head coach. So there's a transition there. I think Baker's entertaining. I think he's cocky as all get out, which, me, Dan, I don't have a problem with that. I mean, I live by a theory. If you don't believe in yourself, who's going to believe in you? But he's a great place to start with this franchise, and I think he's going to be okay. It's just going to take time. He's going to have good games. He's going to have bad games.
What do you see with Aaron Rodgers with this new offense, with new head coach? How do we see the old Aaron Rodgers?
So, the old Aaron Rodgers to me was, I call a little bit of street ball. Aaron would drop back. He would wait for things to either break down or develop. Then he would use his great athleticism to get out of the pocket and make throws that only he could make. See, this is the thing that's so unique about Aaron. He's the greatest pure passer, in my opinion, this game has ever seen. Nobody spins it like him. Nobody has accuracy like him. Nobody has the release that he does. Now, there's been different individuals that have one of those things, maybe two, but never three that he can do. I think what Matt has done with this offense is try and give him a little bit more support. Try to temper him a little bit. Say, make the throws when you have to, because I know you can do it. But don't try and carry the burden of this football team just on your shoulders, whether we win or lose. Let the other guys participate and be a facilitator. That's what we are at the quarterback position. Get the ball out of your hands, into the hands of the guys to make plays. Let the defense go do their job, which, by the way, their defense is playing better than it has in years.
Yeah.
And if a kicker has to make a kick, then so be it. But so much has been all about the focus of just Aaron Rodgers. You know, it is his football team. But sometimes at the quarterback position, and I saw Brett Favre do the same thing. You take so much responsibility on success or failure that it starts to hurt your game. And I think Aaron now is playing, if you might want to call it, a little bit more conservatively and actually a bit more effectively.
And he also went against a couple of good defenses in Chicago and Minnesota, and Denver was supposed to be a good defense. So against a banged up Philadelphia team at home tonight, maybe we see a little bit more of the old Aaron Rodgers. I was also curious about this. When you look at when we call Tom Brady the greatest quarterback of all time, it's not going to be yardage, it's not going to be touchdowns, it's going to be Super Bowls. But let's say, could Patrick Mahomes be the greatest quarterback of all time when it's all said and done based on just stats and not necessarily the number of Super Bowl wins? Could you see a scenario like that?
I think Patrick Mahomes is a special football player. I think that's the way we have to look at him now. I don't think you can bring his name into a conversation about being the greatest so early into his career. And let me qualify why I believe Tom Brady is the greatest. Super Bowls certainly are a factor, but I mean, he's won most of them by kicks. Adam Vinatieri, different people have made kicks for him, different plays that he has made. Tom is the greatest because what he has around him changes every year, Dan. If you have the same people in the studio, you got the same guys around, and I watch the show, you get a rhythm. You know how to play off one another. In Tom's case, it's hard to get a rhythm. Yes, he has Julian. Now he doesn't have Gronk. Now all of a sudden they went from a tight end slot-based offense to a wide receiver-based offense with the addition of Josh and Dorsett playing. And so the tight end position, 2 weeks ago had one catch, which if Gronk was there, that wouldn't happen. Mm-hmm. So there's been so much change around Tom, and yet he still plays at the highest of levels, and they win football games. And not just win them this year, they're blowing people out. And that's another team is you get that kind of play out of their offense with the defense the way it's playing, you have to try and outscore them. And you can't because the other side won't let you. But that's why when I look at Tom, and of course Joe Montana's name comes into the conversation always about the greatest in the game. But Joe had a very constant group of people around him. Tom has not. Tom's had tremendous change around him, and yet the results are still exactly the same. That's what I think makes him the greatest of all time.
If you had one game to win, aside from yourself, who would be your quarterback?
You're kind. I appreciate it. I would substitute somebody for me. I would say Tom, because he's proven it time and time again that he knows how to manage a clock. He knows how to handle timeouts. I watch coaches burn timeouts in the first and second quarter of football games, and I just shake my head. The game has evolved, Dan. It's changed. I grant that. But there are fundamentals in the game that don't change, and that is you have to preserve your timeouts at all costs. You need them at the end of a half. You need them at the end of a game. You can't, and you can't be taking 5-yard delay game penalties because you can't get the signals. And my God, you're talking to the quarterback. What kind of conversation do you have to have in 40 seconds that you can't get the ball snapped in that period of time? I mean, the fundamentals are still a part of the game. But
could you imagine Coach Gibbs in your headset talking to you?
No, it was hard enough with him on the sideline. He would yell at me on the sidelines. I can't imagine what he'd yell at me. If he had 30 more seconds to yell at me, I can't imagine what he'd say.
It is the one thing that I noticed with these younger quarterbacks, and I watched Haskins in preseason, and I said, you got to get to the line quicker. You got to process it And, that time is, it's of the essence when you're in the NFL. And I see these younger quarterbacks, and they take a little too much time. Baker's been doing that, and I thought Haskins did that in the preseason. Did you notice that?
I do. And what happens sometimes is each offense varies in its verbiage. They use numbers, names, colors, all kinds of different denotions when you think about how you want to call a play. There could be 22 characters in just one play. And you can't start to say it and all of a sudden, oh, that was said wrong, and start over. You can't do that. And so from a quarterback, you have to get it out of your mouth. Then you have to get to the line of scrimmage. And what's really important, Dan, and I don't think people realize this, you need all of a sudden a snapshot, this picture in your mind of where all the receivers are going to be. And then when the ball is snapped, you study the defense, and then you find the hole. All that is done in about 2.3 seconds. So from the time you call the play, you have to see it. You have to visualize it. Then you have to get to the line of scrimmage and make any changes that are necessary. Then you have to snap it, get back, and get rid of the football. Or if you're in the gun, you have to pick out which side you want to look at and which guy you want to focus on. It goes a lot deeper than just getting it out of your mouth and saying this is what we're going to run. And this is why I say young guys struggle. Daniel Jones, for example, he wins a football game because a kid misses a kick. By the way, Matt Gay, the kicker for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, please get rid of those shoes. Please. You're a rookie. You don't need lemon lime shoes, okay? Just, please. Win games and everybody will talk about you. And first thing I thought was, oh, my goodness, what are those things? But Tampa Bay had a ball picked off in the middle of the fourth quarter or late third. The guy hits it safety right in the hand.
Yeah.
The guy drops it. They go on to win the football game. And I asked this question of some of my friends, and everybody's going, wow, look at the job he did. I said, if he loses that football game, let's say the Giants lose, are we talking about Daniel the same way that we're talking about him now having won his first football game?
Probably not, but you saw glimpses of athleticism that you haven't seen at that position with that team in a long time. So I think that's all the Giants are doing is they're showing their fan base there is hope, this is our future. And, that's why I went back to the Dwayne Haskins. Like, at what point does management, Daniel Snyder, say, I got to get people back in the stands here, and I'm going to go to Dwayne Haskins to let them see the future. So I think that
if you win, Dan, if you win, you're going to get people in the stands. They lost, 7 of the last 8, I think, at the end of the season. We've lost 3 in a row now. It's a fan base that is tired. They're looking for something to get excited about. And you're right. Putting Dwayne would excite them. But if he's not ready to go, that excitement would be very short-lived, and you would subject him to a possible beating both mentally and physically that could affect him going forward if he is the future.
Yeah.
There's a process. There's a process that people just aren't willing to look at. Because you look at what Patrick has done, and you look what Sam's doing in New York. I mean, you see these young guys come in and start to play. But then I always think of Joey Harrington, who just got the living daylights beat out of him.
Or David Carr.
But David Carr was another one. Andrew Luck has basically left the game because he's just tired of all the beatings that he's taken because of the punishment that he's taken. So I mean, it's a very tenuous situation when you make that decision, and under what circumstance do you want to put that young player in?
I'll leave you with this. What was the play call where Riggins scored the touchdown to win the Super Bowl?
70 chip.
Now, is there anything? Give me the play when you call it in the huddle. Do you just say that?
No, it's goal line formation, 70 chip. Let's get this and roll on. That was the conversation.
Does Riggins say anything?
No, John never said anything. unless I called the wrong play and I sent him someplace with no blocking, then he would turn around and just look at me. I mean, then I'd get this look like, what are you kidding me? There's 4 guys over here. I was supposed to go left. I did that to him once. I sent him with no blocking, and he gained 5 yards. Then he looks at me and he said, "Hey, John." I said, "John, you got 5. What do you want?"
Hey, great to talk to you, Joe. We appreciate your time as always.
You too, Dan. Continue to do well. Look forward to catching up.
All right, that's Joe Theismann.
For more Dan Patrick Show, tune into Audience Channel 239 on DirecTV. Stream for free on BR Live or download the Dan Patrick Show app.